Stop spinning these fables, because deceiving me serves absolutely zero purpose anymore. You gain nothing by continuing this charade with me today. Understood, the deception ends here. This exact moment requires complete and total honesty from you. Meet 25-year-old Christopher Lee, an ex-Marine facing severe charges for ending the life of his 19-year-old mistress, Erin Corwin. Authorities eventually discovered her remains, discarded deep inside a 140-foot deserted mine shaft, out in the remote wilderness. Perhaps she mentioned it to you, though I cannot be certain. However, upon locating her remains, medical examiners ran several fetal examinations since her condition remained quite a mystery. Honestly, I believe those specific medical screenings revealed her expecting status. This tragic incident occurred on June 28, 2014, just outside California's Joshua Tree National Park. The suspect alleged taking a solitary weekend drive across the Badlands, losing his way, and bizarrely stated a random stranger fired rounds in his direction. Yet his narrative constantly shifted during questioning. Detectives eventually uncovered an affectionate note written by Christopher intended for his mistress. Medical reports confirmed she carried his unborn baby. Furthermore, a thorough sweep of that underground pit yielded a shirt containing his genetic material, alongside a beverage container carrying both of their biological markers. By the conclusion of this terrifying interview, his ultimate punishment becomes clear. You are hearing my vocal cords. So where exactly is your vehicle parked? They have it sitting inside a garage over in Dunn. Correct. Were those mechanics giving you trouble down there? Well, no, you are thinking of another mechanic. My four-wheel drive system recently broke down. Right. Therefore, I left the truck with the individual who previously reconstructed my gearbox. At what exact point, let us see, did you operate that particular off-road vehicle? Well, while my sibling visited me, which aligned with my initial vacation days. Probably the 13th-ish, roughly, meaning roughly 14 days prior. Exactly. Operating that thing only lasted about 7 days before the internal gearing failed, sending me straight back to the mechanic. I possessed horrendous luck with that automobile. Did your girlfriend ever ride inside that specific truck? Man, I highly doubt it, because I merely utilized the truck for 7 days, since another garage held it hostage for almost 12 months. Then I finally retrieved it, cruised a bit, requested a total gearbox overhaul, dumped it at the instructional garage for 3 weeks, possessed it during my sibling's visit for exactly 3 days, and currently it sits utterly broken again. Those 3 days of usage occurred exactly when, let me think, roughly 7 to 14 days, past maybe the 13th, making it 2 or 3 weeks back. Right? Because it remained in my possession briefly. My sibling and I cruised toward Palm Springs, intending to hit San Diego by dawn. Plus, I planned to show her some trail driving, yet we barely passed the lateral entrance, basically stopping right there. We broke down near the Utah Trail area because the engine completely gave out, forcing us to hire a wrecker to haul the rig away to fix the drivetrain. Understood. Now, regarding your spouse's utility vehicle, tell me about its most recent cleaning. Whether thoroughly scrubbed exterior or interior, give me the last date anyone actually cleaned that particular automobile, perhaps 6 months back, supposedly. To be honest, we rarely scrub the thing down. In fact, you could likely spot mud piles lingering from my return trip, leaving the flat, honestly. Goodness gracious. True statement. Honestly, I strongly suspect the cabin interior remained totally untouched forever. Sure, I sprayed the exterior down following some swamp trips. However, looking at the cabin itself, filthy debris covers absolutely everything, so the interior remains filthy. Correct. All right. Moving on. What can you tell me regarding the second off-road truck? Any recollection regarding its recent scrubbings? Nobody has ever washed it. Got it. Completely untouched by soap. Understood. Now tell me, does your household possess alternative methods of transportation besides those? Negative. We temporarily operated a leased sedan secured by my sibling whenever my personal rig failed, allowing us to successfully reach San Diego and drop her off at the flight terminal, yet nothing else. Understood? Earlier you mentioned a .22 caliber. Are we talking about a long gun, right? Could you specify the manufacturer of that .22 weapon? It is a Marlin. A Marlin, huh? Merely your standard entry edition. Basically a Marlin .22 Winchester Magnum. Correct indeed. It features, let me think, an unknown optical sight. Nothing too luxurious, probably a $70 attachment, specifically a 3x9 optic, meaning a conventional .22 magnification lens. Quite a decent piece. All right. Therefore, you own a .22 long gun. You also hold a .357. Who manufactured that piece? Oh, it happens to be a Ruger, specifically the GP 100 model. Gotcha. Now, what additional sorts of weaponry sit in your collection? I possess a .325 Winchester short Magnum long gun, I see. Could you describe the style of that firearm? Well, I believe it qualifies as a heavy munitions sniper setup. I primarily utilize it for distant target practice. Understood. Thus, counting the sniper piece, your .22, plus the .357, do any additional blasters exist in your name? Well, I do own a Pelican air weapon. Actually, scratch that. I hold a Pelican alongside a simple pellet shooter acquired at a discount. Makes sense. Furthermore, I technically possess a second .22, though it remains non-operational currently. The internal firing mechanism lacks crucial components, plus the pulling lever feels incredibly loose inside the housing. I assumed it needed parts which I am attempting to restore. We are talking about a vintage 1950s era robot edition. Fascinating. All right. Are there any more firearms lying around the property? Negative. Tell me about alternative armaments in your possession. Sure, I keep a couple of blades. Care to elaborate on the styles of blades you carry? Honestly, plenty. I consider myself a massive blade enthusiast. Tell me, does the law require documenting those items, meaning all your deadly tools? Normally, authorities claim registering sharp objects is mandatory, yet my collection constantly rotates. The turnover rate happens so rapidly that I ignore it mainly because my firearms hold proper paperwork, unlike the blades. So yes, therefore I collect sharp edges. Once I carried an absolutely premium tactical blade, however, some thief swiped it or maybe the farmhands took it. Could you describe the style of that specific blade? Basically an incredibly durable wilderness survival tool, gifted by a close friend before my overseas military tour. Wow. So tell me, how large of a crowd normally loiters around that property? Well, folks frequently complete court-ordered civic duties up there, offering free labor to knock out mandated volunteer shifts whenever the system demands occasional public work. Turns out I abandoned it, strapped onto an all-terrain quad after slicing some hay bundles only for an unknown stranger to casually wander away with it left unattended overnight, costing me a solid $200. Gosh, that sounds incredibly frustrating. All right, so a few blades. Any additional dangerous instruments whatsoever? Perhaps a Bowser. Well, I lack those, though I keep something resembling a tiny Hawaiian guitar snagged from my kid. Interesting. Also, I keep a dart pipe seriously. Additionally, I retain fragments of an archery setup. The frame snapped, specifically fracturing right down the middle grip section recently. Purchasing a replacement has not happened yet. Quick question, what was the time frame regarding that blade vanishing from the farm property? Probably a few months. Probably disappeared around 4 to 5 months back. 4 to 5 months prior. A decent amount of time has passed. I see. Also, I own a jungle cleaver. I own a jungle. Correct, that likely covers everything. Unless I forgot an item. That covers it. Understood. Moving past the weaponry. Now, regarding your cellular device, what model are we discussing? Perhaps an Apple product. Actually, it is a Galaxy S3. An Android user never truly appreciated the Apple ecosystem. Exactly. Nor any of their brand's devices, generally speaking. Gotcha. Tell me, does that single mobile device represent your only line? Yes, sir. Understood. Did you ever utilize alternative mobile communicators? Negative. To clarify, throughout your entire acquaintance with the victim, or literally anyone else? Never. All right. Actually, I purchased a fresh unit, yet the model remains identical, keeping things consistent, you know? Makes sense. You see, just keeping my story aligned. We are talking about a Samsung, indeed the exact version being a Galaxy S3. Understood, leaving us with a Samsung Galaxy device. Which generation again? NS3. Correct, S3. Upgrading twice felt right. All right. Comparing it to your personal hardware, could you describe the specific mobile device your spouse currently operates? Man, just an ancient clamshell relic from the Stone Age. The exact brand escapes me. I see. Do we mean an internet-capable device or similar technology? Let us dive straight into the evidence, starting with this specific device. Was this gadget originally locked down tight before somebody completely wiped the security settings? Are there absolutely zero security locks active right now? Correct. Well, your spouse definitely threw a fit over all your hidden passcodes earlier. All right, we are dealing with an unlocked device here. Now, regarding her old school cellular, do you happen to recall the exact brand or model? I honestly have no clue. If it required a login, was she using a digit combination? Or one of those pattern traces? She preferred the tracing method since numeric codes were never really her thing. For my own handset, I initially went with the pattern trace before swapping over to a numeric PIN. Which exact digits did you go with? It was just the final 4 of my Social Security. People up north absolutely love those things, especially with kids running around. So that was your standard login routine. Could you describe the pattern shape? Honestly, I just went with whatever random squiggle stuck in my brain. Memorizing codes is my weak point, meaning I recycle the exact same key for everything. Got it. So the primary device is wide open. Did her basic cellular require a login? Moving on, tell me about your desktop setup. Are there any working computers lying around your residence? My spouse owns one, but my personal display shattered completely after I tripped over the charging cable upon returning home. Could you specify the manufacturer of that broken machine? Pretty sure it was manufactured by Acer, though it has been ages since I actually booted the thing up. Was it a portable notebook style? Yes, a portable model, completely trashed now. Wait, actually her functioning machine is the Acer notebook. Honestly, I totally forgot the branding on my damaged unit. Was her functional machine the exact spot where she inserted your storage drive or cellular chip? Furthermore, does she keep that system secured behind a login screen? Affirmative. Care to share the exact phrase? It is literally just the word amazing, perhaps linked to some old buddy. Did you create your own separate user account? Nope, we share a single desktop profile. So you both shared access and you mentioned avoiding social media altogether. Shifting focus. Do you recall the exact mobile device Aaron carried? Not really, besides it resembling those old corporate keypad models. Understood. Honestly, the exact manufacturer escapes me completely. Her previous handset died a while back. Any recollection of that specific older model? Absolutely none. Following the mechanical failure of her previous unit, she purchased a replacement. Do you remember the brand of the upgraded device? Both devices hovered somewhere between modern touchscreens and outdated bricks. Think along the lines of a classic business handset with physical keys. Tell me about the physical design. Did the screen pop up or rotate? It was a standard flat rectangle featuring tactile plastic keys right on the front. Correct, though. My memory is not 100% reliable. We already grabbed your contact info along with your spouse's. Regarding Erin, what digits would reach her, I have absolutely zero clue since the contact is gone. Really, you lost it. Does her contact information remain saved inside your contacts? The moment everything went down, I scrubbed her from my device completely. All right, what other tech gadgets are sitting inside your residence? Are you asking about my personal gear? We own an Apple tablet. Does anyone need a passcode to unlock the tablet? Doubtful, considering my rare usage. Usually involves a simple finger drag to open the home screen. Got it. Any additional gadgets lying around? She keeps a basic music player nearby, though it definitely lacks a wireless connection. Understood. Did you officially log my broken laptop into your report? That machine is completely fried and useless anyway. Could you clarify which exact model you are referencing? My memory is blank. It was just a generic portable computer. All right, so a standard portable machine. Exactly, I brought it along for my follow-up meeting. Upon returning, it sat on a low desk where I accidentally crushed the power brick. I see, resulting in a completely shattered display. When exactly did this accident occur? Right after that second consultation, so roughly 24 months back, maybe even further. The thing just gathers dust nowadays. Transitioning topics, did Erin exhibit any highly unusual behaviors, strange remarks, or abnormal routines recently that could assist our ongoing investigation? Nothing particularly bizarre comes to mind. She remained glued to her cellular screen constantly, but beyond that obsession, I am drawing a total blank right now. So the handset never left her sight. Absolutely. Now turning to your own habits, you previously claimed to be incredibly protective over your personal messages. True, back when our conversations were frequent, though my paranoia has faded. Understood. During that specific time frame, my career demanded constant mobile accessibility. Managing a crew of 30-plus guys meant I needed immediate updates whenever any workplace drama or emergency went down, right? During your Saturday departure, was your handset physically in your pocket? Affirmative. However, I toggled the offline flight setting immediately. My connection actually dropped entirely right after dispatching that final text. What was the exact timestamp? His delivery confirmation arrived at 8:16, prompting my 8:22 reply about meeting up outdoors. The network finally pushed my reply through at that exact moment. My initial draft stayed stuck on pending due to spotty reception. Why exactly did you choose to activate the offline feature? Searching for non-existent cell towers kills the power source rapidly. Trekking through the wilderness drains the juice, and preserving every last drop of energy was an absolute priority for me. For what specific duration did your device remain disconnected? I stayed entirely offline until exactly 15:12, right as I exited my vehicle. Were there any outgoing voice connections initiated after 8 o'clock? My final digital trace was that outbound text at 8:22. Understood. Can you confirm? 0 calls were dialed between 8:22 and 15:30. Absolutely impossible considering the total lack of network coverage out there. Once I finally cleared the nature reserve boundaries, I restored network connectivity, instantly receiving a massive flood of desperate messages. Got it. Did you attempt ringing your spouse while still inside the reserve? Negative. Securing a usable signal was impossible. until I physically drove past the exit gates. Cruising down this very highway yields terrible reception, so ignoring my dark screen felt completely natural at the time. All right. Yet the device never actually left your person, correct? Did any third party ever gain physical control of it? Negative. Okay, so please reiterate the exact window where absolutely zero voice communications occurred on your end. From 8:22 until 15:12, who exactly received your final communication before the blackout? I only sent them a written message. I specifically requested they inform Nicole about my offline status to preserve power at 8:05. I mentioned waiting until she woke up, assuming she was still asleep. He confirmed the request right as I began navigating the mountain pass. His 8:16 reply suggested I could have joined earlier. My apologies for the confusion. So your discussions involved heading downstairs together around 8:22, though you lack 100% certainty. How exactly did this friendship originate? A shared acquaintance introduced us roughly 2 years ago, and our northern roots instantly connected us. Over regional jokes nobody else could possibly comprehend. Man, our friendship really kicked off over firearms. Mostly because that guy owned this incredible sniper setup, making those distant targets super easy to hit, right? But my whole purpose for bringing that up is that I bugged him for days to tag along on a dirt trail drive in his truck. Unfortunately, during our chat last weekend, the guy told me his recent joint operation made it totally impossible for him to join the trip. Steering a wheel alone brought him serious pain, which prompted me to invite him the previous evening while he hung around with some buddies. I practically begged him to ride along since this marked the absolute final excursion for my crew, especially after waiting ages to score those Predator permits. We totally failed at catching anything, shifting from wearing full ghillie gear at 3 in the morning to just rocking street clothes while hopelessly searching for wild dogs. Did you guys head into the wilderness around half a dozen instances? Honestly, probably closer to 3 or 4 trips total, especially once my calendar filled up. My range duty on the military installation allowed for way more outdoor excursions, simply because my daily routine remained incredibly flexible back then. However, returning to an active platoon to lead troops and subsequently managing the fitness center completely destroyed any semblance of personal freedom I had. My private life vanished entirely. When did you usually spot the animals? Initially, we arrived before sunrise to catch them moving around in the brush. Eventually, our hardcore dawn patrols devolved into random afternoon visits whenever we felt like it, ditching those miserable 3 o'clock wake-up alarms completely. Got it. So exactly how much time remains on your clock before vacating the premises, like a full 7 days? Or just a brief weekend? The landlord expects my keys handed over by Wednesday, the middle of the week, specifically around 10:30 in the morning, despite my massive piles of unpacked boxes. You essentially vanished for the entire daylight period, correct? What did your partner think about you being gone hunting for those long hours? My girl totally ignored the messy apartment issue, since my main focus revolved around figuring out those confusing military checkout procedures during that specific time frame. Her anxiety spiked purely due to my prolonged absence, primarily resulting from me getting hopelessly turned around while navigating the trail back home. Losing cell reception prevented any status updates, which absolutely wrecked her nerves, leaving her weeping and battling a severe, stress-induced respiratory flare-up upon my return. Calming her terrible breathing fit required me cuddling up in bed, eventually leading us both to crash out hard for a minimum of 2 solid hours. Leaving a quick audio message to ease her worried mind proved completely impossible during your journey. Exactly. Plus, my sole priority remained finding a safe path homeward, so touching my mobile device never even crossed my mind in the wilderness. Understood, but did dialing anyone else happen while wandering around out there? Absolutely not. It was impossible. The terrain totally blocked all signals, much like my previous adventure with my close pal, where the environment drained our electronics immediately. Leaving my smartphone running normally during that trek with Joey and his girl drained the battery down to 0 before we even exited the reserve boundaries. Let us circle back to your military buddy for a second. Does he serve in your exact same detachment or somewhere completely different, same squad, right? Both of those specific soldiers currently suffer from severe upper limb injuries and recently underwent major reconstructive medical procedures. Since those guys owned proper sniper gear, they used to be my primary target practice partners before those medical problems sidelined our distant marksmanship sessions. Our .22 caliber weapons, your standard choice for wild canines. Honestly, my properly calibrated .22 shatters ceramic targets flawlessly anywhere from 56 to 100 paces. Nailing a lethal cranial impact on those scavengers should be simple with that accuracy, though we never actually spotted a single beast during our trips. My buddies and I would kill a few hours staring at empty brush, basically treating it as an excuse to hang out. Do you recall his surname? Absolutely, I could shoot him a message right now. No need for that. Just tell me if the guy matches your 24 years of age. Let us pivot slightly. Does the territory surrounding White Vista and Ranch ring any bells, or is that entire geographical sector completely unknown to you? Show me on the map, because we normally plink targets safely behind a nearby ridge, ensuring stray bullets never endanger the local population. Could you specifically name the avenue leading there? Memory escapes me right now, but it definitely sits somewhere close to Ranch Road amongst a few branching paths. Honestly, picking the exact route from these 3 or 4 parallel dirt trails remains a bit of a guessing game for me today. Have your personal rides ever cruised through this specific zone? Absolutely, my tires have touched practically every curvy dirt path winding through that rugged landscape. Exiting the secondary perimeter fence lets you bang a quick left leading straight toward a rather distinct stony slope in the distance. We utilize that rocky mound perfectly as a safe backstop for zeroing optics, and beyond that lies a hidden looping trail serving as a makeshift speedway. Whipping my off-road rig around those sharp bends at maximum velocity always provided a massive adrenaline rush during my free weekends, while I confidently navigate the Southern Trail Network. Blindfolded, the Northern Territory remains largely unexplored and unfamiliar to my internal compass. And can you pinpoint this racing strip near Vista Ranch Road on paper? Visually tracing the path works best for me, rather than rattling off official street labels. Exactly how many days have passed since your crew last tore up that dusty makeshift motor circuit? Sometime last week, we hauled a massive stack of rubber up to a rocky peak my buddy lovingly refers to as Mordor. Dumping those wheels into a deep crater on that massive ridge seemed like the safest way to ignite a massive contained bonfire safely. Burning rubber sounded like a totally epic idea at the time, but did the flames actually happen? Negative, we entirely skipped lighting the blaze. Did you spread the word around camp about planning an illegal toxic blaze? Yeah. A few mechanics heard me begging for their leftover scrapped wheels. Listen, things got incredibly intense outside our complex since we usually just shot the breeze together under the carport right there. Anyway, let us discuss that makeshift racing spot, which honestly feels much more like a private, unpaved trail completely covered in loose gravel. You mentioned pushing your vehicle to the absolute limit out there, correct? Exactly when did you last visit that specific dusty circuit for a joyride? Since we are currently sitting here on a Tuesday, my previous run happened around Wednesday or Thursday. I usually head out early to blow off steam on those rough trails before Nicole even gets out of bed. Honestly, my absolute main goal upon moving down to this desert area was diving headfirst into competitive off-road racing. Unfortunately, my rig project kept hitting roadblocks and literally never reached completion. Right understood meaning your absolute final trip out to that remote oval loop must have occurred at some specific point a few days ago during the week. Can you pinpoint the exact date? It definitely fell on a Wednesday or Thursday. Great. Now break down your exact routine during that specific morning run. My typical route involves exiting the side entrance, passing the unpaved commuter lot where everyone normally parks their vehicles, and hitting the dusty trail, running directly parallel to the main concrete pavement. I always push my speed to the absolute edge of losing control before veering sharply onto one of those branching side paths. Although the specific trail escapes my memory, they mostly merge at a single destination. One particular route actually loops straight toward the military installation. The main circuit sits nearby, where I aggressively slam the brakes, drift sharply, and stomp on the accelerator. That wild maneuver immediately pitches me right onto the main loop, which I circle repeatedly. Afterward, assuming I actually remembered to bring my gear, I always take a moment to recalibrate the optics because those damn things constantly shift out of proper alignment. That basically sums up my regular twice-a-week routine. However, since my usual storage container completely failed, I started carrying the equipment permanently. Got it. Is that a fresh wound on your hand? Absolutely, it occurred right before sleep when a faulty clasp allowed my pocket blade to open. Reaching backward resulted in a nasty gash across my knuckle. Understood, that sounds painful. Honestly, it bled everywhere. All right, let us move on. Have you and Erin ever crossed paths out in those Badlands? Absolutely not. Would she be familiar with the location? Perhaps. Anyone cruising through that sector can easily spot those branching trails from the main highway. Can you think of any logical explanation for Erin venturing out there? Nothing comes to mind. Standard sedans truly have no business venturing out there. Most locals exclusively gather at the front gravel lot to completely avoid getting horribly stranded. Venturing further guarantees sinking deep into loose powder unless you operate an all-wheel drive machine, right? And what exact model does she drive? A blue sedan looking very similar to the white commuter vehicle parked outside their garage at this very moment. Interesting. While tearing through those remote back trails during your usual runs, have you ever stopped to transport any stranded pedestrians or assist drivers dealing with broken down vehicles? Absolutely. I constantly rescue wanderers and drop them off at the local filling station. Come again. You transport who exactly? Drifters flagging down rides are extremely common. In fact, I just taxied an elderly combat veteran near the national park this past weekend. But did you ferry anyone specifically from these dusty trails? Yes, I once scooped up a stranded pair who seemed utterly lost in the desert. To be highly precise, it was a lost man and woman wandering around. I caught them during my return trip and hauled them straight to the refueling pump situated near the military perimeter. Wait, actually, I dropped them near the sandwich shop just outside the gates. Understood. Do you recall the exact date of that rescue? Honestly, my memory fails me since months have passed. Has anyone hitched a ride with you from that specific sector recently? Negative. All right, which brings us right back to her missing vehicle. The reason I press is that our team located her automobile right in that wasteland. Really precisely abandoned entirely in the dust. So tell me why her sedan ended up there. I draw a complete blank on that front. Perhaps a secret rendezvous happened, though choosing such treacherous terrain for a standard sedan borders on sheer stupidity. Exactly how deep into the trails, unsure. Honestly. Right. While the primary routes hold up decently, the secondary paths quickly dissolve into deep powder, making it sheer suicide for anything completely lacking a heavy-duty drivetrain. Stop playing games and give me the absolute truth. If you two crossed paths or exchanged words out in the dunes, I need facts right now. Why else would our forensics team uncover physical proof tying you directly to her abandoned car in the wasteland? Tying me to her specifically, that makes zero sense. Aside from the fact that those trails serve as my regular playground. That sector is strictly my driving and target practice zone. Have you ever seen her vehicle parked there previously? Never in my life. Let me lay my cards completely on the table right now. If a secret romance blossomed, your first instinct naturally involves hiding it from your spouse and commanding officers. But get this through your skull. I have zero affiliation with the armed forces. Yes, a military tribunal sounds terrifying. However, mere infidelity falls completely outside my official jurisdiction, so stop sweating over adultery rumors. I am absolutely not the morality police. Whatever drama happens behind closed doors means absolutely nothing to my current investigation. Your sexual escapades and personal betrayals hold absolutely zero interest to me. The only detail currently burning a hole in my mind is whether a secret rendezvous took place out in that desert. Clues pointing toward a secret meeting are piling up on my desk right now. Drop the facade immediately, knowing full well I cannot report you to your superiors. Report. My badge does not make me your spouse, nor does it make me your priest. I am laying everything out bare for you. You appear highly cooperative on the surface, yet a massive defensive wall still stands between us. Drop the charade immediately, tear down those walls, and spill the actual truths. Because if tragedy unexpectedly struck during a clandestine encounter amidst live gunfire and rugged terrain, the overall stakes change entirely. If a stray bullet unfortunately caught her, or an accident left her bleeding in those remote canyons, keeping silent completely destroys her desperate family. That is exactly the angle we are pursuing right now. Are we completely clear on that? Yes. All right. Then give me one good reason to doubt you two crossed paths up there. Absolutely not. None at all. Listen, what exactly are you holding that proves anything anyway? We are absolutely not playing that game today, Chris. Got it. What actually matters right now is you dropping the act and giving me the truth. Understood. I need complete transparency from your end. All right. Look, if things went south, up in those hills, after you two headed out to catch a break and have some fun, maybe you took her for a drive through the woods or the reserves, showing off the sights and things just suddenly spiraled out of control. If some random shooter clipped her by accident and panicked. If any crazy scenario like that went down, I have to hear it from you. Seriously, I must know the details. Look, I am totally guessing about the specifics here. It is entirely on you to step up and confirm if that is how it played out. Could you shed even a little light on the real reason you two decided to rendezvous up there this past Saturday that never happened? All right. Have the two of you ever visited that high country together before? Absolutely not. Fair enough. Any clue if she hung around those parts on her own? Zero idea. Listen, things get incredibly dangerous out in the wild. We are looking at a trained soldier here. Meanwhile, she is 19, a complete civilian, utterly clueless about survival or danger. Regarding the whole timeline, if an incident took place, did an incident actually occur up there? Negative. Look, nobody else was with me, so my version is the only reality. Got it. And linking up at Valista never occurred either. Hold on, what was that other spot, right? Let us discuss that cellular device of yours. The records show your signal popped back up exactly at 3 o'clock. Did you immediately ring your spouse the second I cleared the treacherous terrain? Exactly. Did you actually dial her number? I absolutely did. Plus, she was still sobbing uncontrollably. She was begging me to hurry back to the house because her anxiety was through the roof. We barely spoke for a minute since she could hardly catch her breath. Sure. Moving on from that precise moment, when was the absolute final contact? Precisely how many outgoing dials did you attempt upon escaping the zone to report the active gunfire and demand they send immediate backup for you? When exactly did you return my missed call? What date fell on the weekend? It was the 29th. Listen up. Chris, the bullshit stops right now. Understood? You keep demanding hard proof, correct? You claim to value complete transparency. Let me level with you right now. We possess absolute physical confirmation from that exact location. Got it? The tread marks from your truck are physically stamped right over her sedan's tread marks. It proves beyond doubt that you crossed paths and rolled straight through her exact path. Clear? The dirt definitively places both automobiles at that exact spot simultaneously. Therefore, my brain is struggling to process the coincidence. Walk me through the logical reason both cars occupied that space. Please make this make sense to me. That is utterly impossible. Is there any chance a stranger rolled through, vacated the area, and my tires merely crushed their leftover imprints? Negative. Your heavy tread crushed her specific pattern. I cannot fathom how that occurred. Let me lay it out. She cruised up there early Saturday. Track with me. She arrived at dawn. Your exact rubber patterns mashed directly into hers. Yet you firmly stated your final pass-through there occurred on Thursday. That girl avoids the wilderness. Her ride remained abandoned on site. Your fresh tread buried her path sometime after the weekend began. It genuinely must belong to a random driver since I stayed away all weekend. The rubber matches your ride, Chris. Quit the games. I am laying it all out truthfully. Cut the crap and start giving me straight answers. I urgently need a plausible excuse to work with here. I literally must step out of this room shortly. We have argued for hours. My boss stayed out. He is analyzing the hard facts, the physical proof from the dirt. Look, my hands are completely empty. I must walk out that door and deliver a solid report to my commanding officer. I must justify why your specific rubber crushed hers and present a logical narrative to him. Are we perfectly clear on the stakes, Crystal? All right, then feed me a solid lifeline. You absolutely must start telling the truth immediately. Drop the facade right now. Because I am walking out to brief my commander saying, listen, this explains it. I seriously cannot fathom how the dirt looks like that. Look, my commander keeps blowing up my pager demanding answers regarding the soil impressions, right? I will momentarily pause this interrogation, step outside and report our progress. What exact excuse should I deliver? Tell me, how did your heavy rig trample directly across her compact sedan's path beats me? I highly doubt my rig is the sole vehicle running that specific rubber. Honestly, that tread pattern is incredibly generic. Any random stranger could have driven past, but it absolutely was not my truck. I stayed clear of the woods all weekend. That remains my sole logical explanation. Honestly, if the girl spun a web of lies regarding my involvement, she probably tangled herself up with a total stranger. Do you catch my drift? Our investigative unit is exceptionally thorough. Point completely taken. Are you comprehending the concept of tread degradation? It is entirely unique. If we both bought identical boots, our gaits would erode the soles in completely contrasting ways. Rubber breaks down uniquely. Drivers handle asphalt mud trails, pavement and rocky terrain with varying aggression, producing highly individualized bald spots. Does that scientific fact register with you? You served in the armed forces. You recognize that similar to boot prints, debris trails and friction burns leave unique signatures. Correct. All right. Listen, a witness mentioned a detail. Toss me a freaking bone here. The deception ends in this room. Seriously, start rattling off the names of her inner circle that you actually recognize. The absolute only companion she ever mentioned was some girl she claimed was her closest confidant from her hometown. Beyond the childhood bond, what specific details did she reveal regarding this companion? Just that the girl was trapped in a highly toxic romance and they practically gossiped nonstop. That basically covers the whole story. Did she mention bringing your name up in their chats? Never. Are you aware she discussed? You fully aware? With whom? Exactly what other companions? That hometown girl is literally the sole individual springing to mind that dominated her conversations. What kind of secrets could she have possibly spilled to me anyway? She might have confessed plenty, because during our dates, she would vent and completely ignore the girl's chaotic baggage since Mary despised dealing with the constant theatrical nonsense. Hence, she would lie about being occupied with random chores, fabricate an excuse about being tied up, such as what exactly she would pretend to be swamped or navigating traffic, despite us just chilling purely to avoid conversing with the girl over whatever insane drama was unfolding at the moment. Secrets breed chaos, man. She brushed off every question while they kicked back, dropping cheap excuses to avoid opening up. Kept her whole reality locked down tight. Hell if I know, honestly, since I kept my distance while their messages flew back and forth out of my earshot. Just hold on a minute. Look me in the eye, brother, because my squad brings decades of hardcore investigative experience to this very table. Understood? That ride is in our custody now alongside the exact tread marks, proving your presence at the dirt scene. I trace rubber prints for a living, so I possess absolute certainty regarding your location. Do not fool yourself into believing you remain our solitary lead in this investigation. Her formal absence alert hit the dispatch desk bright and early Sunday. My unit has burned the midnight oil endlessly since that exact dawn. A massive fleet of investigators currently swarms the entire perimeter out there. Trackers are combing the brush alongside specialized corpse hounds right now. We will uncover her ultimate fate without fail because she is undeniably suffering. Disaster struck in the wild, leaving her utterly broken, and our pursuit for the facts remains absolutely relentless. Now you need to clarify a few glaring gaps, especially since Jesse already spilled everything. Bystanders painted a crystal clear picture of this entire nightmare. Your weekend rendezvous was hardly a secret, so your Saturday meetup is already public knowledge. The cat is out of the bag regarding your grand plan. You intended to spirit her away on an impromptu road trip under the guise of an unexpected adventure. Our intel confirms every single detail of your morning encounter. Your paths crossed right as the weekend began, which directly coincides with the precise time frame she vanished. Furthermore, undeniable evidence marks you as the absolute final soul to witness her drawing breath before everything went terribly south. Tragedy unfolded in that wasteland, a fact both of us possess deep awareness of. My singular goal centers on grasping the exact mechanics of that catastrophe, grasping the true motive behind the wilderness disaster remains crucial. Personally pegging you as some emotionless assassin simply refuses to fit the narrative. Personal demons clearly plagued your path lately. You battled internal strife while actively striving to completely turn your chaotic existence around. Labeling you a ruthless sociopath feels deeply incorrect, especially considering I interrogate genuine monsters on a daily basis. Cartel enforcers and street thugs regularly occupy my interview room. Those savages execute innocent targets via moving vehicles purely for sport, lacking even a shred of basic humanity. A calculated hitman profile rejects your character, yet an incident undeniably occurred, demanding immediate clarification before our inevitable recovery mission exposes the grim reality. Facts possess an uncanny ability to surface independently. Unearthing her remains will inevitably broadcast the factual timeline, making your preemptive honesty absolutely vital. Raw transparency represents our ultimate objective in this room. Tell me truthfully, does a merciless predator truly live inside your skin? Did chaos suddenly erupt from nowhere? Perhaps an innocent mistake spiraled totally out of control beneath the open sky. Stop stalling, because that excuse carries zero weight anymore. Open your ears widely and absorb my words, since your previous denials fall completely flat now. Focus intensely, because the very seconds ticking by currently dictate the absolute remainder of your entire earthly existence. Rewriting history remains an impossible feat for mere mortals. However, shaping our immediate destiny lies entirely within our grasp during this fleeting conversation. Dictating the upcoming chapters of our lives starts instantly. Reversing the tragic events of yesterday simply defies the laws of nature. Whatever darkness transpired requires absolute transparency from this point forward. My gut instinct heavily resists painting you as a psychopathic slaughterer. Premeditated slaughter feels far beyond your capabilities. You never orchestrated an elaborate trap just to snuff out her flame, dump the evidence, and seamlessly resume a normal routine. Does that horrific narrative match reality? Absolutely not, meaning a spontaneous tragedy struck. And you possess the exact blueprints of that nightmare. Gaining insight into the madness is critical, considering my squad refuses to abandon the hunt. Chris, packing up and surrendering simply does not exist in our vocabulary. Sleepless nights stack up as we chase this trail relentlessly. An absolute army of law enforcement professionals currently dedicates every waking second to this specific file. Securing her physical return commands our highest possible priority. Evidence firmly dictates that a severely grim fate suddenly befell her. Facts never lie about these details. Your scheduled weekend hookup registered clearly on our radar long before today. The weekend timeline directly connects you to her. Consequently, the gravity of your impending choices reaches monumental, life-altering proportions. Figuratively speaking, a massive trench surrounds your feet currently. I am offering you the very spade responsible for your deepening predicament. Plunging further into the abyss remains one option, whereas bracing the tool against the dirt wall allows an immediate upward escape route. Outline the chaos clearly, since deception inherently carries an expiration date. Such tactics represent the absolute pinnacle of psychological criminal interviews. Shifting from aggressive blame toward perceived compassion, the investigator deploys vivid imagery to perfectly illustrate the target's dwindling options. Leveraging the digging analogy compels the subject to mentally time travel, confronting the devastating reality of his stubborn silence. Burying oneself in lies contrasts sharply with the liberating climb of admission. This strategy disguises the snare as a vital lifeline out of his own mess. Your golden window of redemption officially opens right here. Grab the proverbial tool and recount the events, perhaps revealing a tragic unintended mishap. Unintended. Did a rival gunman spark the chaos in the wilderness? Ignorance clouds, my view making factual clarity, my singular desperate pursuit. Flesh and blood bind us equally in this room. My quest for transparency stems from knowing a severe disaster definitely struck that terrain. Chaos ignited directly following your rendezvous, regardless of the exact geographical coordinates. Acquiring the precise mechanical breakdown of that tragedy is absolutely mandatory. Seize this precious moment to unburden your heavy soul. Relatives are grieving intensely, guaranteeing this investigation will never simply fade into obscurity. Do not expect this file to collect dust on a forgotten shelf, while society blissfully ignores her permanent absence. The whole world just erases her memory, commuting straight to the office to clock into those basic 8-to-5 grinds. Listen, we are tearing this entire investigation apart until the absolute truth comes out. This is your one chance to come clean, since my partner and I have worked these rooms for years, all right? I have interrogated suspects for decades, and you definitely break the usual mold we see in here, sitting and chatting forever. You simply do not fit the profile of the usual thugs I process, especially lacking that dead sociopathic stare. Part of me genuinely thinks you aren't some ruthless murderer, yet I absolutely require the real story of that day. Did things spiral completely out of control by mistake, leaving you terrified out of your mind right now? Your criminal history has you panicked that the cops will automatically pin this whole tragedy on your shoulders. Being the final guy seen beside her absolutely does not prove you actually pulled the trigger or caused harm. Are you sweating over the fact that admitting you hung out makes you the prime suspect, despite us knowing nobody spotted you guys together later that day? Look, whoever fed you that garbage intel was lying. But are you just scared to death to confess? Yeah, we linked up. We kicked it out in the dust, drove up to the middle of nowhere, and then everything went entirely wrong. You are panicking because you previously sat right there and lied to my face, swearing, nope, our paths never crossed. There is absolutely no romance between us, and we definitely avoided hanging out in secret. Are you worried we will instantly declare you guilty by default? Man, I swear I drove down there totally alone. Fine then, how did that Saturday dawn encounter play out? I never saw her then. Look, we already verified that, so listen closely. This is your absolute final shot at full transparency, especially since her buddies already confirmed you two definitely crossed paths. Cell tower pings, text, logs, and digital footprints easily track exact movements, essentially handing us a clear map to pinpoint precisely which location every single person was standing at. The fact that you crossed paths is undeniable, so my only question left is the exact reason behind it and how things unfolded. Grab this lifeline and spill the facts, Chris, because our long conversation proves you are absolutely dying to come clean. Your conscience is eating you alive. And keeping this dark secret from your spouse is tearing you apart, right? The terror of your spouse finding out and taking your little girl away is relatable, considering I raise young children myself. I would literally burn the world down for my offspring, and you made it obvious your child is your sole reason for breathing. Right? Absolutely. Your little girl means everything to you, so it completely tracks that you are terrified of your marriage blowing up and resulting in you losing all custody rights. Honestly, I totally get that immense pressure, because being a dad myself means my own children hold my entire heart. Recognizing your profound love for her makes shedding this massive burden completely essential. So just take a deep breath, really process this heavy reality, and finally start feeding me facts. Keep it real, because I see your panic regarding your marriage. You promised her the affair was over, yet you kept sneaking around and texting behind her back anyway. Hiding that toxic betrayal is your top priority right now, driven by the absolute terror that an ugly domestic explosion will eventually force a lonely relocation to Alaska, completely stripping away both your family and custody. Deep down, the kid anchors you, since you openly confess that a childless life would let you easily pack your bags and start fresh alongside a completely different woman. She remains your absolute priority, proving exactly why you lack the sociopathic traits of a real murderer who notoriously lacks empathy and looks out for absolutely no one else. I refuse to paint you with that ruthless brush, man, because your genuine devotion to your relatives and deep urge for redemption clearly proves a solid, functioning moral compass still beats deeply within your chest today. Life dealt you some incredibly heavy blows, recently leaving you terrified of confessing. Yet I already verified that weekend encounter, leaving only the motive missing. Drop your guard and just spill the details, Chris, because the exact reason for that specific rendezvous remains a total mystery to my investigation team. Your gaze screams how desperate you are to unload this burden, man, proving you possess too much paternal love to be considered some heartless monster acting without any remorse. Public perception currently has you completely paralyzed, utterly terrified that the surrounding community will permanently brand you as a completely toxic, irredeemable villain. Personally, I view you as a decent guy trapped in darkness, and your expressive face silently begs to confess, making it mandatory for you to verbally confirm the facts right now. Stop hesitating and give me the pure facts immediately, Chris, because trying to spin another lie will inevitably fail when all I need is the core motive for that meetup. Continuing this pointless charade offers zero benefits at this crucial stage, seeing as we officially crossed the threshold of deception ages ago. The era of fiction is completely dead, demanding full transparency from you immediately, but I swear on everything, man, I never actually laid eyes on her that weekend. merely spotting her parked ride. I was merely cruising the area, scavenging rubber for a bonfire, slowing down to check the driver's seat. Yet she remained totally absent from the scene during my entire trip. My romantic history made me paranoid that reporting the abandoned vehicle would instantly frame me, but look, your admission means we are finally making some real tangible progress today. We must abandon this ridiculous cat and mouse routine, immediately avoiding these childish attempts at psychological manipulation. Do you grasp the immense gravity of this situation, considering your verified presence perfectly aligns with a highly secretive rendezvous? This investigation goes way deeper than random rubber prints, yet I keep swearing I only spotted the empty ride. Fine, at least you admit being physically present that exact day. Explain your exact motive for cruising through that specific grid, because claiming you just needed scrap rubber for burning sounds like a massive stretch. Listen to me exactly. Where did you spot that rubber rotting on the shoulder, right? Just blown out scraps left behind from some busted rig. Look, we've got plenty of rigs out there checking the shoulders and gathering scrap rubber. So let's cut the crap. Exactly what did you say to her regarding your little rendezvous? I never clarified my intentions. What would Aaron even mention regarding your weekend meetup? I honestly have no idea. He knows exactly who I am, and I genuinely believe your department matters. Holding up all right today, man. Listen closely, Chris. You realize my team has been digging into this mess for a long while now, correct? And honestly, I get it. And honestly, I've been a murder cop for years now. I didn't walk in here to mess around, and you will absolutely never catch me feeding you a load of bull. I refuse to sit across from you and spin some fake narrative, all right? What I can say with absolute certainty is that a major incident went down out there. Things undeniably escalated that day. Now it just comes down to intent. Was this a calculated, ruthless execution, or did an argument simply spiral out of control? That is it. This nightmare isn't going to magically vanish, man. It's truly not. And knowing exactly who you are, I wouldn't even dare to pretend otherwise. I'd never sit here and claim I wouldn't be absolutely devastated in your exact shoes. Anyone would be completely consumed by the heavy burden of emotions you're currently dealing with. Let me be clear, with my years on the force, I am totally certain that a real tragedy took place out in that dirt. Understood. The sole issue is whether this was a ruthless murder or if things just tragically spiraled. That is the fundamental truth. Plain and simple. I can't pretend to fathom the thoughts rushing through your mind upon learning about the baby, but I can certainly picture myself in that exact scenario. My mind would be racing with a million different thoughts. The sheer wave of intense feelings would be completely overwhelming, just bearing all that heavy pressure deep down inside. Speaking to you, Guy, any fellow backed into that specific corner is bound to feel completely crushed by the immense stress. Every single one of us. Look, I've got a little girl myself. She's older than yours today, sure, but she used to be that exact same tiny age once. When my spouse and I finally called it quits, it completely broke me. It remains the darkest chapter of my existence. Something I will never erase. Not ever. I'll forever carry the scars of the absolute hell that other lady dragged us through, quite frankly. Yet despite it all, I picked up the shattered pieces and handled my business. Everyone just tackles that kind of deep trauma in their own unique way. Life throws curveballs. I won't fake knowing your pain because I'm just a guy myself. But I can confidently assure you this is absolutely a scenario where tragedy struck. Deep down, you recognize the reality. We merely need to establish if it was a premeditated strike or a tragic accident out of nowhere. That is our current hurdle. That is precisely our current position. The main issue is picking between the two, and I cannot provide that answer. Why didn't I bump into her over the weekend? All right. When were you planning to show up, and what was his task? Grabbing rubber off the asphalt when exactly it occurred during the early hours before we parted ways. I cannot guarantee the time with 100% certainty. Understood? You lack a specific timestamp? You really believe you outsmarted everyone, don't you? I'm merely trying to see the truth, and I bet Dan made this incredibly clear to you already, man. This relentless pressure is never going away. Our squad won't drop the scent. The investigation is moving forward relentlessly, making this the perfect moment for you to finally come clean about the disaster. This is your singular chance, and honestly, it boils down to the fact that I have interrogated countless suspects who eventually caved, openly admitting every single gritty detail of their crime. They laid out the raw truth. The major issue here is you've spun so many conflicting narratives that absolutely nobody can trust a word you speak. Care to guess the reason? Exactly. It's because you've served up a dozen contradicting lies. It doesn't instantly confirm murder, but it definitely proves you're burying some deep internal guilt. I honestly lack any clue what's eating at you. I can't pretend to understand your reality, mostly because I don't walk around in your personal boots. I've never faced the brutal combat you survived overseas, nor have I given that level of military sacrifice. I haven't walked that honorable path, and I respect your dedication 110% without question. My biggest wish is just to grasp whatever dark shift occurred in your mind, especially when you ventured out toward those abandoned blast zones and dangerous territories. Like you bring up those crazy stories about wandering out there and catching hostile gunfire from random strangers. Naturally, that little detail raised some massive red flags for the squad. Seriously, if you're truly innocent, what the hell went wrong in the dirt? Look, we genuinely brainstormed the possibilities, even wondering if some random shooter pulled the trigger on her instead. Maybe you just panicked in the chaos. What in God's name is happening? A tragedy undeniably struck, man. I bet you consume a ton of crime dramas and Hollywood junk, but reality operates on a completely different level. Real forensic work demands serious patience, and modern genetic testing is absolutely flawless in this day and age. Tech teams extract what we call latent genetic material from car interiors. Perhaps you're familiar with the concept. We are deploying that exact method today. With this specific technique, our lab can accurately map out the exact hour different individuals sat inside that cabin, analyzing precisely how fresh those skin cells actually remain. Specialists will pinpoint the absolute window of exposure down to the exact passing minute. We aren't stuck in the dark ages anymore. Yet it also isn't a movie where we just scan a blood drop and print out a conviction by dinner time. I guarantee you comprehend that fact. As stated, I won't play games, and our relentless hunt won't end until we locate Aaron. Currently, the local military installation is lending a massive hand. Commanders are deploying every single available troop they can muster to comb through the brush and secure those exact perimeters. Her body will be found soon, so we sit here right now demanding you explain the brutal truth. Listen closely, because there is absolute certainty that she was with you right before vanishing. I am speaking the complete truth. Sitting here just to feed you garbage is absolutely not my style. I only speak on things when the evidence fully backs it up. My man, the proof is undeniable. Nobody else laid eyes on Erin after your final encounter with her. The context remains a mystery, so laying out the details could really help clarify the situation. Things usually start adding up once people finally come clean. Honesty wins 9 times out of 10. Logic always prevails in the end. Dealing with honest mistakes is completely manageable, but covering up deceit is impossible. Honestly, the events at that scene are unclear to me. However, the two of you hold the real answers. That part is absolutely undeniable, though the actual severity of the incident remains an open question right now. Over my long career behind this desk, countless individuals have occupied that exact chair to recount unintentional tragedies. Hearing their genuine explanations frequently brings total clarity to an otherwise completely chaotic situation. Finding another way to phrase this is tough, yet my history is full of similar encounters. Unintentional mishaps occur constantly in life. Getting a grasp on the exact severity is the key. The specific context changes everything. A huge part of your conscience is desperately screaming to clear the air and lay out the whole story, yet absolute terror is keeping your lips completely sealed. Curing your fear is beyond my power. However, coming clean about an unintentional disaster changes the narrative, provided your explanation aligns perfectly with the facts. Tragic mistakes are simply a part of human existence. Mapping out the exact mechanics of every single mishap is impossible for me, yet their frequent occurrence is an undeniable reality. Taking a step back to evaluate the long game is crucial right now. Ponder the massive ripple effect this situation will unleash upon your relatives, your destiny, and her loved ones. Once her body is finally recovered, our hands will be completely tied. The entire investigation will automatically pivot toward treating this tragedy as a ruthless, calculated act of murder. The reason is simple. Your persistent claims of total innocence will clash with reality. We will possess undeniable proof of your deception. Finding the perfect words to clarify this dilemma is genuinely difficult for me. Witnessing countless youthful individuals stumble into these exact same disastrous pitfalls has been a tragic recurring theme. My ability to intervene is incredibly limited. The only genuine guidance I can offer is that honest admissions often bring logical clarity to terrible situations. The eventual discovery of Erin's remains is an absolute certainty at this point. Whether you are fully aware of her recent medical history remains a mystery. A recent hospital trip was on her schedule. She possibly shared those clinical details privately, though I remain quite uncertain about that. During that clinical visit, the medical staff ran a series of maternal diagnostics to uncover her underlying symptoms. Those specific examinations almost certainly revealed the undeniable reality of her carrying a child. My confirmation is not absolute, yet my gut points there. Sharing this specific context is merely the natural result of compiling our rapidly expanding investigative file. Once Erin's body is secured, crossing those clinical maternity records against your genetic profile will be our next step. A positive paternity match will instantly validate every single rumor circulating around town. Only one individual holds the power to flip this narrative. Deep down, your conscience acknowledges this reality. Feeding you a complete fabrication is simply not my style. Deception is completely off the table. Let me clarify that no genetic sequencing has been completed yet to definitively prove your biological connection. Playing manipulative mind games is not my objective here today. The process will be entirely transparent, but the laboratory analysis is an absolute certainty moving forward. The ultimate dilemma centers entirely on your future reaction to those laboratory results. Formulating a solid response to that scenario will become your most pressing challenge. Are the pieces clicking together for you? The logic is undeniable considering her unborn baby belonged to you. That infant certainly carried zero biological connection to me. Perhaps this massive revelation is genuinely catching you off guard. Her inner circle certainly received that specific narrative. Feigning absolute certainty regarding your personal awareness of the pregnancy is pointless. Your exact prior knowledge remains unclear. However, spreading the news of her expecting status was undeniably her primary topic of conversation. The timeline extends right up to her planned weekend rendezvous. Anticipating your imminent arrival was literally her final recorded activity before everything suddenly went completely dark. A reliable witness maintained an active conversation with her right until the exact moment your vehicle finally arrived. Time to get real, my friend. Playing deceptive tricks on your mind is absolutely not my goal here. Laying out the inevitable trajectory of this intense investigation is my sole objective in this room. Launching verbal attacks against you is completely outside my agenda. Forcing a false confession or pressuring an involuntary statement holds zero value for my current investigative process. This is simply an authentic dialogue between adults. Highlighting the clear direction of our mounting physical evidence is the only reason for this chat. Repeating a fabricated story about merely cruising past the location changes nothing. Deep down, the utter falsehood of that specific alibi is glaringly obvious. The narrative completely collapses under scrutiny. Whether the two of you parted ways in the remote wilderness following your joint departure remains a total mystery to my team. Your presence alongside her is an undeniable fact. My certainty on that detail is unwavering. Voicing that conclusion without rock-solid proof would be absurd. Claiming to possess her precise geographic coordinates would be a total fabrication. Feeding you absolute nonsense during this critical interrogation is out of the question. Deceit has no place here. The uncompromising reality is our search grid will continue expanding relentlessly until her body is safely recovered and brought back home. Engaging with the San Ynez County Sheriff's Department means facing elite personnel. Our tactical tracking units are widely considered the foremost authorities at locating missing individuals across these harsh landscapes. Our success rate is exceptionally high. Optimism regarding a successful recovery runs deep right now. Admittedly, past investigations have occasionally left me completely baffled. Fortune occasionally smiled upon our previous efforts. However, raw determination and grueling investigative legwork will entirely replace sheer coincidence in cracking this specific case. The current moment offers a golden chance to finally reveal the unvarnished reality. Laying out the sequence of events following her entering your vehicle is our sole request. What transpired next, I never grabbed her. Your denial sounds incredibly scripted and mechanical right now. Trusting that narrative would be wonderful but impossible. Handling these agonizing tragedies brings zero professional joy to either Dan or myself. The grim reality of the job remains unchanged. Shifting back to the timeline you are definitively stating, her presence inside your vehicle during the weekend is totally false, right? Right. Okay. So cruising around to another location together never happened. Nope. Understood. Your entire weekend itinerary consisted of simply driving past her parked vehicle while out hunting for replacement tires. Right. Gotcha. Consequently, every single frantic text she broadcasted to her circle of friends was a complete fabrication. Affirmative. Fascinating. Moving on to another subject entirely. Are you highly familiar with Snapchat? Let's not play games here. You are fully aware of how that ghost app operates, right? Those photos never actually vanish into thin air. They just vanish from your screen to keep your partner totally in the dark. Listen, man, investigating murders is my bread and butter. Every hidden text will eventually cross my desk, which is exactly why coming clean now is your best move. We can clearly see both of you are heavy users of Snapchat, to put it mildly. Any secret chat program you utilized leaves a permanent trace deep inside your device's memory, even after the screen goes blank. It is a tough pill to swallow. However, if you genuinely believed those digital conversations were permanently erased forever and completely untraceable, you are painfully mistaken about how technology works. Look, Chris, I am absolutely not blowing smoke here. I hold genuine respect for who you are as a man, and I refuse to talk down to you, yet I must explain this clearly. We are firmly onto the exact encrypted applications you two relied upon for private chats. We will eventually extract every single word, making this your absolute perfect window to finally come clean. This is your absolute best chance to share your side of the story, since you were the person accompanying her. I completely lack the chat logs today, so I will never sit here and bluff about possessing some massive smoking gun against you. However, those files will be mine soon enough. It is painfully obvious you are carrying a massive burden right now, yet our investigation is certainly not losing momentum. The reality of this situation and Erin's disappearance remains firmly intact. Our specialized excavation teams are actually mobilizing out there this morning, exactly like the operation we ran over in Barstow. While her exact location remains unconfirmed, those search units are heading into the field as we speak. Those experts understand the subterranean work flawlessly, whereas I am completely clueless about it. I never bothered picking up those underground excavation skills, but these technicians are absolute masters of their craft. Multiple task forces are deployed with heavy-duty gear. Dropping hundreds or thousands of feet beneath the surface is basically second nature to them. I overheard them discussing a descent of roughly 1,800 feet. Yes, they are fully equipped for that plunge, though we still cannot guarantee she is resting down there. My point is that our relentless search operations are pushing forward without pause. Therefore, laying all your cards on the table right this second is highly advisable. Are you sticking to the story that she never joined you this past weekend, correct? Any theories on her destination or where she might be hiding? No clue. Perhaps a secret rendezvous occurred. Maybe she simply walked away into the desert. Got any guesses on her route? Nothing comes to mind. Based on your relationship, what would be her logical path? My assumption is she hiked toward the highway to catch a ride, though only your vehicle prints lead there. Is there any remaining detail that could potentially crack this investigation wide open? Sure, did she ever express a desire for self-harm? She mentioned it once early in our friendship, yet the topic never surfaced again after that. How are your spirits lately? No different than usual. Could you clarify that? My daily existence essentially revolves around ensuring my mother stays alive. Did this heavy depression and frustration stem directly from your military service, or were these struggles present much earlier? I really could not tell you. It feels like a complex mixture of everything that makes me who I am. Have you ever sought professional therapy or anything similar for this? Have you actually attempted suicide or deeply planned it out? What held you back from taking that final step? Well, I am not totally sure. Honestly, a massive deterrent is my refusal to let outsiders label me as psychologically unstable. That is a major factor right there. We are witnessing an incredibly unprotected emotional confession here. He openly acknowledges wanting to end his life, yet his hesitation stems entirely from dreading public judgment and losing personal independence. Such an admission highlights a fundamental psychological anchor, dictating his personal reputation and steering his own life story are clearly his top priorities. Terrified of manipulation by the authorities, his spouse, or society, this anxiety likely fuels his deceptive behavior far more than any standard feelings of culpability. Exactly because giving in means surrendering your personal power, while strangers dictate your mental state. I completely understand that perspective. Your cognitive stability is perfectly fine in my eyes. The real issue is simply the overwhelming amount of trauma you have endured recently. As I mentioned earlier, your past deployments and sacrifices command my absolute admiration. Frankly, very few guys possess that kind of resume. My partner and I both hold your service record in the absolute highest regard. We sincerely appreciate your tremendous sacrifices. The freedoms we enjoy across this nation rely entirely on warriors like you. Therefore, we are truly grateful. Tell me, what were Erin's thoughts on military veterans? The subject never came up between us. Do you believe she is currently breathing? What makes you ask? Do you keep your entire firearm collection at the residence? Negative. Where are they? My .22 caliber is currently stashed at the equestrian property for equine sound conditioning. Seriously, affirmative. You actively fire that .22 out there, correct? Aren't 30-30s or 308s the standard choice for that specific training? It really varies. You can honestly desensitize them with any type of ammunition. It boils down to your target priorities. Taking my heavier firearm was an option, yet I only possessed a single bullet, and restocking requires commuting all the way to Rancho. The costs are astronomically high. Several premium outdoor retailers operate in that region. Insane. Hypothetically speaking, will our eventual discovery of Aaron reveal gunshot wounds matching your trigger pulls? Absolutely not. So forensics will not tie a single projectile back to your armory negative. Regarding this property, who actually holds the deed? A woman by the name of Isabel owns the place. Is she holding onto your rifle? The weapon remains inside her dwelling. Whether she is aware of its presence is completely beyond me. What specific room is it stored in? I couldn't tell you the exact spot. My spouse was instructed to hide the piece before my scheduled interview with local law enforcement. A very smart tactical move. Therefore, Nicole handled the concealment for you. Yes? Understood. Could you remind me of your little girl's name? We are slightly sidetracked here. Correct, moving along. Those details matter immensely. Earlier, you offered to guide our unit to your target practice location. Yes. What was the name of that specific dirt path? Again, locals refer to it as Gold Crown Road. Understood. How far away is that spot? It is quite a journey beyond Adobe 62, though the precise mileage completely escapes me. Fair enough. Can you recall any specific details regarding the hostile shooter's location or appearance when they abruptly opened fire on your position? Negative. My only certainty is they wielded a pistol since they fired single-handedly. Were you able to catch a glimpse of the assailant's face? No. The sheer distance made identification impossible. Their aggressive posture definitely indicated targeted fire. They appeared to rise abruptly from a crouched, tactical stance. Shots rang out, and while I can't swear I was the primary target, the bullets were definitely flying my way. I didn't stick around to ask questions, so I just bolted. Look, I realize we have covered this ground before. Where exactly did the incident happen? Deep in the backcountry, right? Yeah, it was really far off the beaten path. Tell me, are our investigators going to discover your footprints out near those abandoned mines? You know, the area way out in the middle of nowhere, where those old shafts sit. You might find some prints near the spot where I pulled over. Why were you out there in the first place? I just wanted to take a quick look around. Could you be specific about the location? I honestly have no clue what it is called. It was just some random trail off the main road. Notice anything? Not a single thing, since I was completely out of water and rushing. I hiked down, hoping to reach the main mining zone, but the rugged terrain proved way too difficult to navigate. That is exactly when I retreated back to my truck. So you were out there hiking around on foot, and then someone started firing at you. I left the truck and started climbing, but the second I crested that ridge, I spotted them and threw up a wave. Next thing I know, they opened fire, so I scrambled straight back to my ride. Let me get this straight. You wave and they start shooting. Yeah, because I was dying of thirst and figured they might have a canteen to spare. The guy popped up from cover, aimed his rifle right at my chest, and pulled the trigger. Can you give me a rough estimate of the time? I could not tell you to save my life. Had you already polished off your entire supply of water? I actually did not pack a single drop. I froze a couple bottles at home and completely forgot to grab them before heading out. All right, I hear you. So you cannot fathom a single solitary explanation as to why she would be texting her friends about your supposed weekend plans, or why she explicitly told someone over the phone that Saturday morning that you were literally pulling up to her place right then. Not a clue. She must have been making it all up. Actually, she probably eavesdropped on my calls, since their bedroom window sits directly over my usual spot. If the glass was even cracked, catching my weekend itinerary would be a piece of cake. You are suggesting she framed you and then vanished into thin air? Not exactly. I just believe she could not handle the reality of our breakup. She was probably spinning tales just to save face and keep up appearances with her social circle. Once the forensics team sweeps her entire apartment and tests every inch of that bedroom. Will your DNA pop up anywhere? Absolutely not. There is zero chance. Fair enough. I just needed to clarify that point. We will not find a trace, and you are sticking to the story that nothing intimate ever happened. That is correct. Understood. Essentially, you broke things off and she refused to let it go. Was this girl actively tailing you around town or acting like a crazed stalker? What was her deal, anyway? Beats me, honestly. I am not entirely sure what John noticed, but I would catch those blinds twitching whenever I pulled into the driveway. I figured it was just someone hanging out in the kitchen by the window. Beyond that, I am genuinely in the dark here, right? But her public stories never quite matched her private conversations. Back when we hung out, she would invent these wildly elaborate excuses to end phone calls quickly, mostly because her life was already a chaotic mess. She would feed her friend these wild lines, insisting that we had a big date lined up for the weekend and acting super thrilled about it. She would even throw out crazy hints about an upcoming proposal, dropping all these massive bombshells just to politely end the conversation. Does that make sense? That is bizarre behavior, truly strange. A normal excuse is claiming you have a sink full of dishes or some chores to tackle around the house. A quick wrap-up is totally normal to hear. However, spinning an incredibly detailed, drawn-out fantasy just to get her friend to hang up the receiver completely defies all logic. It really is baffling. Then again, I never met the woman personally. I am merely trying to piece this puzzle together. So try looking at this from my perspective for a second. I hear you. If you were sitting on this side of the table, how would you interpret all this? What conclusions would be running through your head right now? I would probably assume she was spiraling out of control, which frankly was the reality of the situation. The girl was constantly feeding flat-out lies to everyone in her inner circle. She played me for a fool, too. A compulsive liar does not just turn it off, regardless of how much they might care for someone. What kind of fabrications did she spin for you? She looked me right in the eye and swore her husband was physically abusive, claiming she feared for her very survival. Her entire justification for avoiding her own house was so we could keep seeing each other. What is the exact time frame on those claims? All that drama went down about 6 weeks back, during the peak of our fling. Now tell me, will a warrant turn up any hidden chat logs between you two on Snapchat? Are you absolutely certain about that? Positive? All right, but if digital forensics does pull up messages, how will you explain it? Could a third party have hijacked your device to talk to her? That is entirely within the realm of possibility. I am notorious for leaving my phone unguarded at the office, sitting on my dashboard, or just laying around the house. Who in your life would actually pull a stunt like that? I could not point a finger at anyone specific. Fine, let us pivot back to your rock-solid weekend plans with your buddy. I genuinely tried locking down a schedule, but his torn shoulder kept him on the fence. By Friday evening, he finally pulled the plug and bailed on the whole trip. That led me to head out solo on Saturday, though I did text him to meet up before hitting a dead zone. The funny thing is, whenever we chat, he is always the one pressuring me to hit the trails. Got it. Interestingly enough, I spoke with him the previous evening, and he seemed totally on board. Honestly, I chalk that enthusiasm up to the liquor talking. Once morning rolled around, his house was still full of company. Ditching his own party would have definitely sent his wife into an absolute tailspin. Let me be crystal clear here. We found your tread marks parked right next to her sedan. You claim you only spotted her car, yet she never approached your window. Exactly. Right. By that logic, there is zero explanation for her footprints overlapping with your fresh tire tracks. Not unless I miraculously happened to roll over a spot where she walked earlier. I would love to buy that coincidence, but her footprints are literally stamped directly over the tracks left by your rear tires. That timeline makes your version of events incredibly tough to swallow. Look, the physical proof at the crime scene speaks volumes, buddy. The pieces simply are not fitting together, and sorting out the truth is my only job right now. Nobody is condemning you just for hanging out with her earlier in the day. I am completely blind to the aftermath, but sharing a morning coffee does not make you a murderer. I am fairly certain Detective Dan already laid those ground rules out for you clearly. Here is the kicker: I have processed crime scenes for decades, alongside top-tier forensics experts, and the dirt does not lie. Yet you are sitting here insisting our hard evidence is nothing but a fairy tale. In what universe does that even make sense? I have not got the faintest idea. Honestly, neither do I. Could it theoretically happen? I suppose anything is possible. So you are banking on magic footprints walking right up to your window? Yes, I firmly believe that could have happened. If that is the absolute truth, why keep us in the dark before you casually drop that little bombshell? Look, panic set in the second I spotted her truck because I just knew you cops would automatically pin this whole disappearance on me, treating me like the guilty party. Oh, so that thought has been eating at you. Honestly, I completely understand the stress. Her vanishing is terrifying, right? Oh wait, your real fear is just us suspecting your involvement. Absolutely, it terrifies me. Being human means getting scared. Look, man, we are simply doing our jobs here, trying to piece together this utterly bizarre puzzle. Look, random tragedies occur constantly without any clear explanation, right? However, our department absolutely refuses to fabricate evidence or wrongly accuse an innocent person just to close a case. That is strictly against procedure. Facts and hard proof drive our entire investigation. Frankly speaking, Christy Evans explicitly placed the missing woman inside your car, and that baffles me. Perhaps your massive anxiety stems directly from the fact she entered your ride, making you paranoid that we will immediately jump to conclusions about your direct involvement in this. Honestly, I have no clue, as the whole situation feels totally absurd. Is that the core issue here? Does her being inside your passenger seat make you terrified of prosecution? She never stepped inside my truck. Did the woman approach your window? No, she vanished from sight entirely. Are you familiar with taking a polygraph examination? Yeah. Understand the concept? Yeah. Define it. A deception detecting machine. Gotcha. Ever actually taken one before today? Never. Understood. Suppose you were strapped to the monitor right now, and I questioned your potential involvement or secret awareness regarding the tragic demise of Aaron. How would you currently respond? Deny everything. And the machine's verdict? Complete honesty. Shall we set up an appointment then? I must decline given my current mental wreck. Messed up nerves might trigger fake results. Completely reasonable. Moving forward, I need to discuss the impending digital forensics sweep we will execute across your personal computers and devices. So will our tech team uncover internet browser queries researching deception detectors and their mechanics. Nope. Fair enough. Tell me, will the digital logs reveal any morbid curiosity regarding homicide? Well, roughly 6 weeks back, I ended up chatting intensely with a fellow service member while we were stationed inside the main guard shack. The topic surfaced, organically typical, dark military humor, debating the most efficient method for eliminating human remains permanently. Who exactly were you talking to? Who? Frankly, the guy's identity totally escapes my memory since the chat felt trivial. When did this happen? During my final shift, before taking vacation time barely 4 weeks prior, and the exact search query. We browsed the internet simultaneously using both of our smartphones. Did you check his device too? Yeah, got it. What did the web pages actually reveal? Swine. Wait, farm swine? Yeah, what is their exact function? Consuming the flesh. You cannot be serious. That is wild news to me. Incredibly innovative. Luckily, 0 hogs roam that nearby farm property. Fine, just cracking a joke about the swine. Did the forum suggest anything else? Well, one user recommended burning, which immediately sparked a massive argument regarding the agonizing time frame required. Because professional incinerators need 8 solid hours to successfully reduce human tissue into ash, making standard bonfires completely useless. Ultimately, the internet consensus advised consumption, literally feasting on the corpse. Exactly. Straight up cannibalism. Correct. But why crush the skeletal remains? Just pulverize everything thoroughly, leaving behind nothing but easily disposable powder. Such an unsettling interaction, perfectly blending casual academic intrigue with grotesque themes. Confronted about researching corpse elimination tactics, the accused instantly admits it without any hesitation. He launches into a highly clinical breakdown of disposal methods. Behaviorally speaking, this heavily suggests hidden criminal awareness. This wasn't harmless boredom driving his deep dive, but a desperate necessity to resolve a suddenly pressing real-world dilemma. Easily listing granular specifics like failing bonfires and pulverizing skeletons proves his brain actively absorbed tactical data directly tied to the victim vanishing completely. Which tools pulverize those fragments? Honestly clueless. Just utilize heavy machinery. Guessing you lack prior experience shattering skeletons? Well, I obviously catch plenty of gruesome media constantly. Yeah, I severely doubt that succeeding. It remains quite strange considering smashing everything with blunt force merely produces massive fragments everywhere. Such a bizarre tactic, honestly. Did desert burial cross your mind too? Nope, not at all. Actually, an online user proposed excavating a deep vertical shaft, dropping the corpse inside, casually tossing a deceased pet directly above it, and filling the entire grave. Oh, totally an ancient urban legend. Cops dig underneath the decoy carcass immediately. Yeah, I found numerous flaws myself. Surprisingly enough, investigators always excavate straight past the initial furry discovery. Did the thread mention abandoned caverns? Skipped that topic entirely. We handle endless investigations involving those exact locations. Fascinating, specifically around our local county. Browse those lately? Never. Seriously, dude, I could practically count double-digit crime scenes utilizing those exact underground drops. Sounds like a fairly genius tactical approach. The flaw is it's severely overused. True. So your web session specifically targeted eliminating human corpses. Correct, just idle chatter. Could you possibly identify a single individual standing nearby during this morbid exchange? Unfortunately not, as the trivial banter faded quickly from my memory bank. What exactly triggered such dark dialogue between you two? Honestly, a sarcastic wisecrack initiated the conversation upon my arrival. Basically, someone started cracking inappropriate historical jokes regarding military deployments overseas, specifically mocking civilian casualties or animal cruelty rumors to spark an edgy reaction. Oh, really? Give me an example of this pitch-black humor. How does a luxury vehicle differ from a mountain of infants? I lack a fancy car inside my personal garage. And distinguishing infants from heavy sporting equipment, stabbing spheres with farming tools, is impossible. Good grief, that is intensely dark. Is this typical infantry humor? Does everyone serve up this stuff? It is slowly fading away, actually. The recruits rarely drop those punchlines nowadays. Wild stuff, honestly. It functioned primarily as a psychological defense mechanism against toxic public labels, shielding us when protesters screamed horrific accusations constantly. Claiming soldiers toss innocent animals down ravines over one isolated overseas scandal. I hear you. Law enforcement faces the exact same unfair stereotyping constantly. A single officer crosses the line, immediately condemning the entire badge, while civilians ruthlessly mock our profession. A patrolman grabs a pastry 200 years ago, sparking a permanent cultural punchline we endure today, generating hilarious memes. Some maniac plotted hijacking a bakery delivery van to initiate a reckless freeway pursuit, ensuring dozens of drooling squad cars would eagerly trail behind. Good luck with that. Here's another classic. A patrolman pulls someone over, accusing them of bloodshot vision. The sassy driver instantly claps back, mocking the officer's sugar-frosted stare, mumbling about sugary pastries. Those endless deep-fried insults are wild. Listen, is there absolutely anything else you could share with us? Nothing comes to mind, honestly. So what time did you actually discharge your equipment that afternoon? Right, roughly, how many rounds did you send downrange? Probably around 4 or 5 rounds. Got it. What exactly were you targeting? Just plinking at some boulders to zero in my sights. Understood. Just getting it dialed in perfectly. Yeah, and we are talking about the exact hardware currently sitting at the property. Correct. Excellent. Would it be an issue if we brought that piece in for forensic exams? Go right ahead. Perfect. What about the rest of your equipment? Sure thing. Just as long as they are returned on schedule, I will hand them over. We absolutely guarantee you get them back. Now, what about your ride, man? I really depend on my truck, so I cannot surrender it. Fair enough. The silver lining is our forensics team is already on site. They are swabbing it now. We should honestly return it super fast. Sounds good. What else is needed? The computers. We must run a deep dive on the phones. You fully grasp why these steps are necessary. Correct, I do. Listen, please do not assume I am sitting here accusing you of being guilty, because that is simply not reality. Our job strictly requires covering every base thoroughly. We just need absolute certainty that no stone gets left unturned throughout this entire investigation. This is strictly standard procedure. Try your best not to feel personally attacked. I realize it feels tough, but please keep an open mind, all right? Also remember, our door remains completely open. Whenever a question or thought crosses your mind, we are fully prepared to sit down and chat. Fair enough. Honestly, I believe we have been pretty decent to you throughout this process. We absolutely refuse to handle you like some kind of common delinquent. A massive part of that stems from the deep respect we hold for your military service. Now, is there any other detail bubbling up? Nope, nothing at the moment. Got it. Say you wanted to point out the location. Could a standard sedan handle that terrain? Man, you definitely need 4-wheel drive. Perhaps we could snag a patrol vehicle and head out? You could tag along for the ride? I cannot manage that right now. I still must finalize your processing this afternoon. Oh, out in the field. Got it. The location is nearby, right? Just off Highway 62. Actually, no, it isn't right off the street. It sits much further past Route 62. How long after Highway 62? 30 to 40 minutes minimum. We can head over at 5:30. We will absolutely take a look around. Sounds good. After returning on that specific Saturday, did you ever power down your cell phone? Honestly, I seriously doubt it. I do not believe so. Were there any outgoing calls from your device between arriving that afternoon and, say, the following morning, meaning the following day while exiting the park? Exactly. You dialed a number. I rang up Connor first. Then I checked in with my wife, correct? And you contacted nobody else afterward. I should check, but I am unsure. You completely abstained, all right? I am highly confident you abstained. Not a single call made for nearly 24 hours. Our digital forensics team will eventually confirm if the power was actually cut. Sounds great. Did you search for anything else online that we should know about? I highly doubt it, no. Did you happen to look up Aaron online after everything went down? No. Did you browse local news online? Perhaps anything regarding pregnancies? Something similar. So once we verify everything you are stating, that baby is definitely not yours, correct? Yes. All right then. One more procedure on our checklist involves collecting a buccal swab, meaning we simply run a cotton swab against your inner cheek. This provides us a genetic baseline, especially since the medical staff retained genetic material from the unborn child during her initial emergency room visit. I remain ignorant of their exact procedures, but we will definitely run a paternity panel on those specific samples. We simply need absolute verification. However, those lab results generally require significant patience. We will grab that swab, and from there, we simply adapt based on the final results. Awesome deal, my friend. We genuinely value your willingness to assist us. I bet your brain is currently racing with a million conflicting thoughts. We truly value your immense help. Regarding your trip to Alaska, when do you depart? We officially hit the road on the 7th. Driving all the way north? Absolutely. Who knows, maybe we will visit you up in the frozen tundra, buddy. That provides a flawless excuse to completely ditch the precinct. Right. Grab a tiny vacation out of it. Totally. If flying was possible, I would totally avoid that endless drive. Makes complete sense. Awesome. Solid plan, buddy. Anything else on your mind? Nothing. We will transport you back home safely. All right. I am returning to the field right now. Okay. Can you recall absolutely anything else? No. All right. When claiming to be mentally fragile, what does that actually signify to you? It basically implies feeling completely overwhelmed, leaving my brain incredibly foggy. My cognitive recall is completely shot these days. For instance, I might vividly recall an event, but reality was totally different simply because my brain fails to retain facts accurately. Got it. That completely explains why I consistently fail to recall exact dates, specific hours, or particular individuals. Makes sense. However, that does not mean you struggle controlling intense emotional outbursts, like randomly weeping or bursting into totally hysterical laughter. Perhaps, though, I rarely shed tears or genuinely chuckle. Understood. Expressing intense emotions simply feels pointless. Got it. You remain fully aware that lie detector results are completely inadmissible in court, correct? I know, perfect. I just needed to ensure you fully understood that. How did you learn at binging television? Man, those crazy broadcasts teach you absolutely everything. Heavens. Fair enough. Listen, should you ever decide to volunteer for a polygraph, simply ring us up, give us a heads up, and we will arrange the entire process. Our department that actually employs dedicated in-house examiners for this specific task. Those specialists are absolutely phenomenal at their craft. Furthermore, inaccurate readings practically never happen around here, mainly because our technicians are top-tier industry veterans. Honestly, the quality rivals the exact rigorous standards demanded by the Federal Bureau. Our examiners complete the absolute identical elite certification programs. Why the exclusion? Because the judicial system entirely rejects instruments measuring stress the way these machines do. Our courts absolutely refuse to legally validate that specific methodology. Therefore, we strictly utilize it to guide our inquiries. The examiners remain incredibly skilled at spotting underlying truths, like validating your claims regarding feeling completely mentally unhinged. Experts analyze your normal behavior right away to establish a solid psychological foundation. Once they pinpoint exactly how you naturally act, they establish that standard as your absolute starting point. Those specialists refuse to trick you by waiting for a calm moment before completely surprising you with sudden accusations. That manipulative tactic simply never happens during professional evaluations, though judges might eventually accept such evidence someday. The justice system simply avoids fully trusting them right now. So our department strictly treats these tests as helpful guides. This process honestly eliminates innocent suspects, constantly allowing detectives to easily transition toward closing cases. Naturally, subjects often feel terrified about potentially failing these clearance tests. Trust me, experiencing that specific anxiety makes perfect sense. Still, my partner and I absolutely refuse to pressure anyone. We never force anything on anyone. Have either of us acted aggressively toward you today? I sincerely value your honesty. My absolute worst nightmare involves getting labeled as an overbearing detective. Because neither of us operates with that aggressive mentality, our ultimate goal involves crossing paths out in public where we can exchange friendly greetings without you panicking. Keeping things entirely relaxed remains our biggest priority during this entire process. Listen, Chris, would you mind tossing your signature onto this document quickly? We simply need solid proof showing these remain your genuine words. Please scribble your full legal identity across that top section. Just drop your initials wherever necessary to guarantee nobody else forged this specific statement. Would you also kindly jot down today's exact calendar date near the bottom? Absolutely. Wow. Today actually marks the 1st of July already. Do you have any exciting plans lined up for Independence Day celebrations? You definitely need to organize a fun barbecue. Correct, exactly on June 7th. Correct, the 1st of July works flawlessly. I deeply appreciate your cooperation, Chris. Earlier you mentioned rocking a standard pair of denim pants. Understood, specifically during your outing last Saturday. You also sported a dark cap. Understood, though you barely wore it. Did you rock any other clothing items? A pale shirt. Correct. Wait, what kind exactly? Did it feature a specific designer logo? Exactly, the fabric contained a few navy accents. I suspect it belonged to an American apparel company. Listen closely, friend. We absolutely require immediate access to your mobile device now. Understood. Precisely, our technical team simply must conduct a thorough examination of its digital contents. We promise to return your property swiftly. Exactly how many hours will this inspection require? Probably 24 hours. Maximum, but my current employment heavily depends on possessing that device. I completely understand your frustration. Regrettably, our department already pushed forward and officially secured a legal seizure order for your electronics, purely as a precaution to ensure every procedural requirement remains perfectly fulfilled. Therefore, our current plan involves accelerating this entire process immediately. Honestly, my personal goal involves dropping this gadget off with the lab technicians this afternoon so they can promptly finish analyzing and release it back to you. Does that sound acceptable? The extraction moves incredibly fast once technicians connect the cables and execute their digital diagnostics. Wait a minute. Which specific medical specialist did you just mention? Our tactical units currently occupy your personal residence at this very moment. Understood. Consequently, my partner promises to provide complete duplicate records of every single legal document involved. You have my absolute word regarding those details. As previously stated, our squad refuses to act like malicious individuals, causing unnecessary damage. Executing our sworn law enforcement duties remains our sole motivation here. Fulfilling those professional obligations represents our only actual objective. Therefore, our team guarantees you receive duplicate files for every document while ensuring nobody unfairly deprives you of your personal belongings for unreasonable durations, causing you severe, unnecessary inconvenience. Simply goes against how we operate our investigations, because we genuinely respect your time. Understood, so you suspected the location might have been nearby? Correct? Besides those heavy work boots currently on your feet, do you store alternative footwear options anywhere inside that property? Exactly. Roughly how many individual sets of sneakers do you own in total? Around 5 or 6 pairs. Did that dark cap feature distinct logos across the front? It definitely possessed a specific emblem attached. Our department promises to leave comprehensive contact information just in case further inquiries arise. Can either officer lend me a communication device? Your spouse currently waits safely inside my patrol vehicle. Let us transport you straight home immediately. Does your stomach need some food before we depart? Are you still worrying about the mobile device? Providing a duplicate seizure order remains our priority. We guarantee handing those documents over upon exiting this property. Providing duplicate paperwork for every item remains our absolute guarantee. Does that arrangement satisfy your concerns? Feel free to utilize that nearby bathroom facility. I decline. A unanimous civilian panel officially convicted Christopher Brandon Lee, leading to his permanent incarceration, handed down on November 28, 2016, completely eliminating any future release opportunities regarding the premeditated assassination of 19-year-old Aaron Corwin. The courtroom panel additionally validated an extraordinary aggravating factor confirming he executed the victim through an orchestrated ambush. From this story, the deepest lesson is that lies may delay the truth, but they can never destroy it. When a person chooses deception over responsibility, the damage spreads far beyond one moment, one choice, or one life. It breaks trust, wounds families, and leaves pain that echoes for years. What makes this tragedy so powerful is not only the crime itself, but the reminder that selfish decisions can turn into irreversible consequences. This is why honesty, self-control, and respect for human life matter so much. In moments of fear, anger, or pressure, character is revealed by the choices we make. Real strength is not found in hiding mistakes, creating excuses, or manipulating others. Real strength is found in telling the truth, facing consequences, and protecting life rather than destroying it. This story should awaken our conscience. It reminds us to value every person, every relationship, and every responsibility we carry. A single act of cruelty can leave permanent scars, but a single act of integrity can prevent unimaginable pain. In the end, truth stands, justice speaks, and humanity demands that we live with compassion, accountability, and respect for the lives of others.